In 1997, 39 people were found dead in a mansion in California. They all wore the same clothes, left the same eerie note, and shared one radical belief: that this world wasn't real. That everything around them, society, history, even their own senses, was part of an illusion designed to keep them asleep. They were part of the cult known as Heaven's Gate. Most people called them crazy. But what if they weren't entirely wrong? Hold up. I'm not saying you should follow a cult. Far from it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The idea that reality isn't what it seems isn't just fringe nonsense. It's echoed in ancient spiritual texts, backed by neuroscience, and, if you're honest, you've probably felt it yourself. Those strange moments, that creeping feeling that something doesn't quite add up, the repeated patterns, the sense that maybe you've been living inside a story you didn't even write. In this video, we're diving deep into the illusion. We'll explore how your brain edits your perception before you even know it, how your memories can be fabricated, and how your very identity might just be a story your mind tells to keep things feeling familiar. And most importantly, we'll uncover the awareness that's been quietly watching it all unfold. If something inside you has always whispered that the world isn't as solid as they say, this might be the moment everything shifts. Because once you see through the illusion, you can't go back. 1. The illusion of reality. Most people walk through life assuming what they see, hear, and touch is reality. But what if all of it is just the brain's best guess? Everything we experience is filtered through mental interpretation. Light waves become color, vibrations become sound, and we trust it blindly. It's like watching a movie and thinking the screen is the real world. You see shapes, depth, movement, but it's all projected. Now imagine living in that projection without realizing it's not the source. The mind loves predictability, so it fills in the blanks to make the world seem consistent. If you've ever read a paragraph with missing letters but still understood it perfectly, that's your brain at work. Reality then becomes less about what's out there and more about what your mind expects to find. This is why the same situation feels different to two people. One sees opportunity, the other sees danger. Same place, different perception. Take a simple example. Two men in traffic. One curses, stressed, sweating behind the wheel. The other listens to music, relaxed, using the time to reflect. The cars, the noise, the delay. Same illusion. But the way their minds process it creates two completely different realities. What changed wasn't the world. It was their awareness of how they interpret it. So here's the curveball. What if life isn't happening to you, but through you? If your entire world is shaped by internal processes, then what's really going on? And more importantly, if what you call reality is so fragile, what happens when that illusion starts to crack just a little? 2. Memories that never happened. Imagine being absolutely sure something happened until someone proves it didn't. That's the unsettling truth about memory. Studies like the Lost in the Mall experiment show how easy it is to implant memories that feel completely real. People remember the color of the floor, the feeling of panic, even the smell of popcorn, none of which actually occurred. Memory isn't a video file we replay. It's a flexible story the brain updates and rewrites constantly. Have you ever argued about something you were sure happened one way, only to find out later you were wrong? That wasn't just forgetfulness. It was your brain editing the past to fit your current belief system. Your memories are not just about the past, they shape your present identity. So if your memories can be reshaped, your sense of self can too. That's how powerful and slippery perception is. Think of your past as clay, not stone. If every conversation, every childhood moment, every heartbreak can be bent and reshaped by time, suggestion, or emotion, how much of you is real and how much is just familiar fiction? This isn't just philosophical, it's practical. Every time you recall a memory, you're rewriting it. You're not accessing a file, you're repainting the picture, and sometimes you're painting over something that was never even there. The scary part? You're doing it right now. Even reading this, your mind is shaping an experience that becomes a memory within seconds. So if you can't fully trust your memories, what can you trust? What if the only real moment isn't something from the past, but something happening right now? And even that is just a version created by your mind. 3. The voice in your head isn't you. You know that constant voice talking in your head? The one narrating your day, judging you, replaying the past, worrying about the future? Yeah, that one. Most people assume that's me, but let's take a breath here. If you can hear that voice, then who's listening? The voice isn't the problem. The problem is that we believe it without question, and that belief, that's where the illusion begins. Let's say you're walking down the street and a thought pops up, I'm such a failure. You didn't choose that thought, it just appeared. So if you didn't consciously create it, why do you treat it like gospel? That voice, often negative, anxious, or repetitive, is just the mind running old scripts, childhood memories, TV shows, your boss's tone. It all gets thrown into the blender and served up like truth. Here's something you can try. Next time that voice tells you something harsh, just ask, who said that? You'll be surprised how quickly you see it wasn't you. It was your mom, a teacher, an old wound talking. The more you observe the voice, the less power it has. You're not trying to silence it. You're just no longer taking it so seriously. It's like living with a roommate who never shuts up. You stop believing everything they say. And once you realize the voice isn't you, you're free to start noticing the space between the thoughts. That space, that's awareness. It's quiet, still. And in that stillness, something deeper wakes up. So if you're not the one talking, maybe you're the one watching. And that raises a whole new question. Who or what is the watcher? 4. The self is a story. From the moment you were born, people started giving you labels. A name, a nationality, a religion, a set of values. None of it was chosen by you. It was downloaded, like an operating system you never agreed to. Over time, you started identifying with those layers. I'm a good person. I don't like confrontation. I'm not artistic. But how much of that is actually you? And how much is just repetition? Let's do a little test. Imagine you were born in a remote village in another country, with different parents, language, and culture. Would you still be you? Of course not. Your likes, fears, opinions, even the way you define success would be entirely different. That means your current identity isn't fixed. It's borrowed. Your identity is not who you are. It's a story. And like all stories, it can be rewritten. Ever hear someone say, that's just how I am? That's the ego talking. That's the defense mechanism of a mind clinging to its identity like a badge of honor. But here's the twist. When you're overly identified with the story, you become trapped in it. You spend your life defending a version of yourself that isn't even consistent over time. Think back 5 years ago. Would that version of you agree with who you are today? So if identity is just a story, then who's the author? Who's the one holding the pen? This isn't about erasing yourself. It's about waking up to the fact that you are much more than the labels you wear. The real you isn't defined by the script, but maybe, just maybe, it's the one watching the script unfold. 5. Free will is a beautiful illusion. People love believing they're in control. I choose my path, they say, but neuroscience throws a wrench in that. In studies where brain activity is monitored, decisions show up seconds before. People are even aware of choosing. That means by the time you think you're deciding, your brain already did the work. Your conscious mind, just the narrator telling a story about something that already happened behind the scenes. You decide to have coffee instead of tea. Seems simple, right? But maybe your choice came from a smell you barely noticed, a memory you didn't consciously recall, or even your blood sugar levels. You didn't decide the thought. Your body and subconscious whispered it before you could speak. This doesn't mean you're a robot. It means the idea of total control is an illusion that keeps the ego comfortable. So what now? If you're not fully driving the car, should you stop steering? Not at all. But instead of clinging to the illusion of control, start observing your decisions. Notice how they come up. Get curious. Practice pausing before reacting. You'll begin to notice a gap between impulse and action. That gap is where awareness lives, and in that space, something else can emerge. Something deeper than logic, louder than thought starts to rise. It doesn't shout, it doesn't push, it just waits. Always there, always watching. And when you stop trying so hard to choose right, you might finally hear it. But before you decide what that something is, ask yourself, is your mind really showing you the full picture? 6. The mind filters truth. Let's play a little game. Watch a video of people passing a basketball and count the passes. Simple, right? Now imagine halfway through, a man in a gorilla suit walks through the scene, and half the people don't see it. This is real. It's called inattentional blindness, and it proves something crucial. Your mind doesn't show you what's there. It shows you what it thinks is important. That same filtering happens all day, every day. You're not seeing the world, you're seeing what your brain allows you to see. It's like wearing glasses that block out everything unfamiliar. You think you're objective, but you're not. Your perception is shaped by beliefs, culture, trauma, repetition. So when two people disagree fiercely about what's true, they're not lying. They're just looking through two very different filters. This is why you miss opportunities that are right in front of you, why you repeat old patterns without noticing. Your mind edits reality to match the story it's already attached to, and what doesn't fit, it hides. Not because it's evil, but because it wants things to feel consistent, familiar, safe, even if that story is keeping you stuck in fear, resentment, or scarcity. So what happens when the story breaks? When something you never noticed suddenly becomes obvious? That's when awakening begins, not by adding more beliefs, but by realizing how much your mind has hidden from you. But can you trust your mind to show you the path out of the illusion? Or is it time to look beyond the mind altogether? 7. The awakening is not about answers. Here's the big misunderstanding. People think awakening is about finding answers, some secret formula, some final truth. But real awakening, it begins the moment you realize most of what you believed about life, about yourself, about reality, was never solid to begin with. It's not about replacing one story with another. It's about seeing that they're all stories. You won't wake up by shouting at the dream. You wake up when you stop trying to fix the characters and start noticing you were never the character to begin with. That moment when thoughts arise and you don't grab them. That second when emotions rise and instead of resisting or indulging, you just watch. That's awareness. And it doesn't need to know everything. It just needs to be present. Let's make this real. You feel anxious, right? Instead of saying, why am I like this, or I need to stop this, just try saying, there is anxiety. Not, I am anxious, but there is anxiety. See the difference? One traps you inside the emotion, the other allows you to step back. And from there, the grip loosens, not because you solved it, but because you stopped being tangled in it. So no, awakening won't make life perfect, but it does give you space. Space from the noise, space to breathe, space to remember that none of it defines you. Not your job, not your past, not your thoughts. And if none of that defines you, then maybe the truth of who you are isn't found in answers at all, but in a kind of silence you've always known but forgot how to hear. 8. Awareness is what you truly are. Strip away the thoughts, strip away the beliefs, strip away even the name you answer to, and something still remains. That something isn't a thought. It's not a feeling. It's not a concept you can put in a motivational quote. It's the presence that's been watching everything since the beginning. That stillness you sense when the mind finally shuts up for a second. That's you. You were there when you were 5, staring out the window. You were there during your first heartbreak, watching the mind spin. You're here now, reading this, and you'll still be there when the next thought passes. That presence doesn't age, doesn't panic, doesn't crave attention. It doesn't need validation, it just is. Awareness isn't something you do, it's something you are. Most people go through life thinking they're their thoughts, their careers, their roles. But roles change, bodies age, opinions flip, and yet something never moves. That's the real you, not the illusion of a me clinging to identity, but the observer who was always watching the whole thing play out. It's like mistaking the clouds for the sky. Thoughts come and go. Awareness remains. So when you start to notice that you're not the content of your mind, you stop trying to fix the mind. You start being what's beneath it, what's been patiently waiting for you to remember. And that changes everything, not by making you someone new, but by showing you that you were never lost to begin with. But what happens when this awareness begins to live through your daily actions? What shifts when the story is no longer in control and silence takes the lead?